Urban planning, or city planning, is the study of organizing living areas and the reasons behind a buildings and structures positioning within a city. Urban planning has been around in the world for centuries, with the most significant developments occurring during the Roman times. The Romans realized the importance of transportation, as well as the importance of space and resource management within their cities because of the population's rapid growth. Overpopulation stimulated an interest in formulating patterns for street layouts and aqueducts to sufficiently house and supply water for the populace. From the Romans' example, we could see that urban planning is vital for the growth and survival of civilizations. The practice of urban planning has been developed throughout the course of history to accommodate various changes in the world, such as people's lifestyles or new innovations and discoveries. Feats of architecture, such as roads, buildings, and bridges, weren't just thought up from nothing, but they were built to serve a certain purpose. The construction of each structure required much thought and discussion amongst the people in power on how to create something that everyone could use. Each country's and culture's urban planning is different, but they all share the same goal of satisfying the needs and demands of the people.
For 232 years, Bangkok has been the capital city of Thailand. At the center of the city, it is called Ratanakosin Island, being called so for its geography. It is surrounded by the Chao Phraya River and many other canals that serve as borders. To understand Thai urban planning, we first have to understand Thai culture and how Thai people lived back in those ages. Back then, Thai people could only choose from either transport by foot or by boats, in which most of the population chose boats. The emphasis on naval transport is the reason why Bangkok has so many canals. Additionally, Siam's history of being at war with neighboring countries stressed the importance of having forts and canals as a defensive border. As for architecture, Bangkok, or even Thailand in general, has a lot of temples and religious establishments spread throughout the land. People back in older times used to be extremely religious, and this religious belief influenced the construction of these temples. In the times before Ratanakosin, the island that used to be the residence of Thai Chinese people was re-established to become the new capital. The Thai Chinese people were asked to relocate to Sampeng, but a new palace, built by the king's orders, was built in its place. Soon after that, temples and smaller palaces followed, as the ruling system used to be focused entirely on the royalty. Out of all these palaces, the most well-known and also the main palace was called the Grand Palace.
The Grand Palace was built by King Rama I's order on the 6th of May, 1782, the same day of the establishment of Bangkok as the capital of Thailand. In the palace's vicinity was the Temple of the Emerald Buddha, otherwise known as Wat Phra Sri Ratana Sasadaram or Wat Phra Kaew in local tongue. The temple also served as Bangkok's signature landmark. After the construction of the Grand Palace, the surrounding land was divided amongst the royalties and the nobles, upon which manors and castles were built. The king ordered the construction of more temples, as they serve an important role in Thai culture and religion. Events such as the king's birthday or New Year's Day are traditionally celebrated by going to the temple to pray and meditate. Although the royalty live inside the city walls, separate from the common folk, and the royal temples are not open to the public, other temples are usually filled with people on such occasions, almost serving as a community center and religious gathering at the same time. No matter what class, most Thai people are religious and take their religion and sacred ceremonies quite seriously. So the construction of temples was always considered a good deed.
King Rama I chose this island primarily because there was a canal that could be utilized as a border and also as a means of commute for the people. This canal is called Klong Ku Meung Deum. Sometime after King Rama I moved the city, he ordered the construction of Klong Rop Krung or Rop Krung Canal, which was to serve as a new border. This is the result of the population's rapid growth, which was too fast for the city's current area to support. So, Klong Rop Krung was constructed around Klong Khu Meng Dem to increase the city's area. The rivers and canals played such a vital role in people's lives that the additional construction is not considered only beneficial, but almost essential for the people. However, the construction of a new canal wouldn't be complete without the construction of a defensive fort to protect against external threats. So Mahakan Fort was constructed around Klong Rop Krung. However, when compared to the inner canal, or Klong Khu Meng Dem, there are significantly less forts built for the outer canal, or Klong Rop Krung. This is because around this time, there are significantly less threats of wars or conflicts with the neighboring countries. So emphasis on the city's defenses were no longer necessary. With this, Mahakan Fort is one of the few remaining ancient forts left in Bangkok, because it is also one of the last that was built in this time. Decades later, the same overpopulation problem occurred once again, and King Rama IV had to give the order to further increase the city's area by constructing a new canal. This canal being called Khong Padung Krung Kasem, or Padung Krung Kasem Canal. However, this canal did not receive further fortification from forts because up to this time, Bangkok has not been faced with any conflicts or wars at all. From this fact, although it is clear that there is no longer a threat from external forces, but there is still an importance delivered on to the use of rivers and canals for Thai people. So the question is, why is that? In older times, the lives of Bangkok citizens revolved around the Chao Phraya River and the canals. The canals served as the main form of transportation and commerce. People from all around would conduct their business from the naval vessel. Merchants would sell goods from their boats. Postmen would travel along the river to deliver letters and packages, and shipments of raw materials such as rice, wood, and so on would all be done from small boats all the way to large ships. With this, Bangkok is called as one of the Venices of the East because of the significance of rivers and canals on the people's lives. Historians would even say that the concentration of activity in the Chao Phraya River is comparable to the major roads of modern Bangkok today. As time goes on, modernization spread throughout the globe and into Thailand, bringing along with it the use of roads and land vehicles for commute. With this, King Rama IV ordered the construction of the first paved road of Thailand in 1861, the Charoen Krung Road. A few years later, in 1863, two complementary roads, Phuong Nakhon and Bamrung Mueon, were built, and soon after, other road systems followed throughout the land. Land commute soon took over, as more people travel on land than on water. While the upper class used their own personal vehicles, common folk had to utilize public transport, such as trams and buses. Decades later, the bus systems have improved significantly, with more routes and destinations. But at the same time, the tram systems were completely terminated, as their tracks took too much space on the roads and maintenance costs were too high. These events confirmed that the roads outperformed the rivers and canals in both speed and efficiency of transporting the masses, which triggered a change in the people's lifestyle. Instead of conducting business from a temporary venue, such as the naval vessels, people are now more inclined to set up a permanent shop on land, which is now more sustainable than traditional naval methods. However, the effects of modernization doesn't end there. The population still continues to grow at an exponential rate, and the existing roads are no longer enough to support such a large amount of people commuting at the same time. This leads to the construction of Ratchadamnern Road. Ratchadamnern Road is one of the widest roads in Thailand and also serves as a prime example of Thailand's later modernization. Built in 1899, Ratchadamnern Road is to be the pathway for the king to travel from the Grand Palace to the Ananta Samakom Throne Hall. Ratchanamnon Road is one of the only roads to be called an avenue officially because it is replicated from the Champs-Élysées from Paris. Despite this fact, however, the locals still call it a road because it is more simpler to refer to it that way. When new roads are paved and developed, especially when they connect to other major roads, people can get to new locations much easier. These locations are usually difficult to get to back when there weren't paved roads or public transport systems. So it isn't far from the truth to say that these paved roads are the cause behind the foundation of major popular and metropolitan locations in Bangkok today, such as Silom and Sukhumvit. Before the introduction of roads and public transport systems, Silom and Sukhumvit used to be comprised mostly of grass fields and farms. But with the advances of urban planning and road systems, Bangkok can now be separated into multiple zones, each with its own focus and purpose, such as industry, agriculture, business, residence, and so on. The capital city of Thailand, Bangkok, has definitely been through a lot of changes throughout the course of history. But these changes weren't made randomly. Each change was an effort to try and adapt to worldly changes that were perceived by the kings of those particular ages that were deemed necessary to support the continuing growth of the land. From the departure away from rivers and canals to the advancement of land transport and modernized cities, Thailand has always been adopting new concepts and ideas. Without urban planning, civilizations around the world would not have been as developed as it is today. Whenever a new advancement was made, people would always try to incorporate it into their own lives because it is essential to the continuing growth of their society. Although the concept of urban planning may sound unrelated to everyday people like you and me, it is actually designed with us in mind. We are the ones who shape cities and civilizations. From Thailand's example, it started as a civilization dependent on rivers and canals, and when there weren't enough, more canals were dug so that more water houses and water markets could be constructed. As time goes on, advancements in urban planning made larger cities possible, with road systems and infrastructures becoming more favorable for the people, thus causing a shift in interest for the people's desires and needs in life. Urban planning cannot exist without its people. Without the people's desires and needs, urban planning wouldn't have much direction, and the concept of metropoles would be obsolete, as a civilization without its people is just counterproductive. So before you disregard the importance of urban planning, remember that, indirectly, you are the one that influenced the construction of the structures around you. With this, we could say that บอกเลยว่าลืม จะแทไม่ออกว่ะ